because that's where you're going to have to finally close down the deal before they pull out the credit card and do the deal with you. You're going to have some questions at the back of the table. Isn't that true, Dan? You're going to have questions at the back of the table. And Dan is great at, after he comes off stage, his energy rises and he gets to the back of the table and his energy actually goes up even after he spent an hour and a half giving the best that he had. Overcoming fear or resistance. Overcoming fear or resistance. Now, these are where you'll plop the stories in at different points of the presentation. I'm not specific as to where they might be, but where they fit in. You know, they get in where they fit in because you're going to have different points where you can tell the audience is changing or somebody has a question. What are some of your fears as speakers? Let me ask you guys, what are some of your fears as speakers? Go ahead.
Going to the back of the room and no one shows up.
Going to the back of the room and nobody shows up. That's fearful. That's nightmare proportions. What else?
I think it's fun when people heckling.
Okay. Okay.
Saying something.
That's why you didn't say a lot about you being a foreigner and Serbian, right? Serbian, because you thought they would heckle you even further.
I was always scared.
Okay. So we've heard from two speakers so far. Those of you who are not speaking, what are the reasons as to why you're not speaking? The fear.
Maybe that people might ask you a question, you're not sure the answer, you might look like you don't know.
That's a huge one. I think that's what makes public speaking one of the most fearful things. People are afraid. They have that first thought of, what if they say something and I don't know the answer? What else? Yeah.
That your mind just can be going completely blank.
Right.
Because there's no script, no teleprompter. You can just sit up there and just go blank. Or you get up there and you say, hey, how's everybody feeling today? And nobody say anything.
Right.
And you say, I said, how's everybody feeling?
Right.
They still just look at you. And look recovery from that. They wouldn't answer.
The point is this. We have a lot of fears, right? We have a lot of fears, things that we're worried about. How about the heckler, the guy that's going to say some things that's going to throw you off on purpose? All those fears that we have, right? And everybody that buys a product has a fear about what to do once they get the product. Are you going to follow up? Are you going to do those things? So we have to answer those relating how we were in their shoes. Now, for me, it's not a problem for me to relate to somebody in the audience because I was in the audience myself for 6 years, myself attending the boot camps, flying around the country, learning every strategy under the sun, but then yet still feeling like I couldn't do one of them because I had learned all the strategies. You have to pick one of them at some point, right? So there I was. I'm relating to you right now by telling my story because how many of us in this room, we've flown all over the country and we've done that, right? We've been to boot camps all over the country. So you think about that. You relate how you were in their shoes. What else do? You think about how it wasn't comfortable. How it's not comfortable to make that investment of, Dan, how much is your investment today? $297 for the DVD? How it's not comfortable to make that investment because I know you have bills, you have other things that you're investing in, but overcoming that because you know the value of what you're getting today and tomorrow, how important that is, and how you need to hear this same event again, over and over again, playing in your car. Next time you're driving out to another seminar, you need to hear this stuff, your education on wheels, so that you're able to go out there and actually implement it, right? How it should feel different. How what you're doing when you decide to become a speaker and you become one of the people in this room that actually steps up and becomes a speaker and goes national and everything that you're talking about doing, how it's going to be a lot different than the feelings that you had maybe before that or maybe a lot of what the other people are doing around you. It's going to feel odd to get that call from a real leader, a real estate investment club, and they say, hey, David, we had somebody cancel yesterday. Can you fly out on the red eye this morning because you can speak tonight at 7 if you want? And how my mom might look at me and say, David, don't do it because that's crazy. But I say I'm doing it anyway because it's just what I do. How it's different, how it's not really that comfortable, how you don't really even want to do it, but you just do it anyway because that's what you're pursuing, right? How you're closing, how is a barometer of your growth. How these changes that you're making is a barometer of your actual growth. They say, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. We've all heard that. We've said that. But why do we keep doing it, right? Let me tell you a quick story. Why do I invest in my education? Why do I invest in my education? Well, first time I ever invested in my education was back 1996. I don't know if you can see that. 1996, I spent $223.80 on something called personal power. Anybody know what that is? Tony Robbins, right? Now, at the time, that was a big investment for me in 1996. And by the way, I found that, I was down in my basement about a year ago, and I found it stuck to the box or to the underside of the box, and I said, wow, that's great for the presentation. How's that for taking some reality and putting it into your presentation? And that $223.80 at that time, that was a big investment for me. And most of the people my age at that time were not spending it on Tony Robbins. They were out buying, you know, Darren said Budweiser. He said it, not me. All right? They were spending it on things not with this guy. All right? So here was my story. How friends and family aren't necessarily going to support you. I go out, I watch the infomercial. I'd probably seen it 3 or 4 times, maybe even 7 times at 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. I see Tony Robbins come up every time. And then they put on the sale technique, right? And they want you to buy it right then and right there. And one night at 1 o'clock in the morning, I finally bought it. So the next morning, I'm in the dining room and I'm having some breakfast. And my mom came in and said, David, what in the world are you doing on the phone at 1:30 in the morning giving your credit card information to someone? I said, you won't believe it. I bought the Tony Robbins package, the personal power. And she said, the guy with the big teeth? That guy right there? And then she said, David, don't you know? That's a scam. That's not real. That was my introduction into buying and investing in my education and myself. Recently spotted at one of my events, my mother. All right? So times have changed. A 360 has occurred. She's come around. No, I don't charge her for the boot camp. All right? So that's my story of why I invest in education. I like to make it fun. I like to make it make sense. I also like them to understand the challenge that I had with making that, at that time, a $223 investment in education. And what do you do when you talk about your investment in education? You got to hit on why it's important. You got to show how you've done it. You know, what do you know about me? I've invested over $130,000 in my education at this point. So I've continued to invest, right? What you felt like when you were doing it. How your family and friends, they're not going to support you necessarily. Even the ones that say they will. What'd you say? You don't tell. She doesn't even tell them because she knows the support's not coming. Why you continue to do it also, though. Think about this. If you're selling a boot camp, a home study kit, might there be further packages that they can purchase from you, right? Do you explain how you continue to invest in your education? How Tony Robbins was not the last time that I invested in a piece of education. Tony, if you're watching, God bless. Future pace. Future pace. What does that mean? Anybody want to take a chance at what that means? Future pace? Go ahead, Augie.
Simply giving a picture of what the future will look like by taking advantage of what you have to offer.
Exactly. Kind of sealing the deal a little bit, especially at the back table. Maybe tell a quick story of how an individual had some questions at the back table just like you did, and then when they came back there, how 6 months later the deal had cemented, they got their first closing and they were happy that they did it. A back of the room closing type strategy. Why do I speak? Again, we had some questions about that, right? Why in the world would you be a speaker? Why would you hop in a car for an hour and a half? Why would you hop a flight for 6 hours? Why did I go out to LA? Why are you doing all these things if you got a program that works and you're making money from that? Well, if you're doing so well with real estate, why do you speak? People are generally going to be skeptical, right? A lot of people are going to challenge that. That's going to be one of the first things they look at. A story to explain why there's a bigger purpose. I'm going to tell you a story right now that explains a bigger purpose for me. It's a reality for me. I'm going to tell a story.